dangers of simping. Okay, for people who don't know what simping is, it basically means being a fool for a woman. Being a fool for a woman. And putting her needs above yours to the detriment of yourself. Why guys do it? We do it because it's safe. We do it for a lot of reasons. But if you were born after 1970, you were raised in a world like I was, where equal rights amendment, women were independent, all these other things. And a lot of people were raised by single parent households, and women, we were taught to be nice guys, be respectful of one, open the door, all those things. You know, guys before knew how to do that stuff. They didn't have to be taught. They just learned it from their fathers and the family and the society and culture. Well, women taught their sons how to be men. So obviously you got a generation of softer men and conversely a generation of harder women. Well, when you leave your mama's house and go to school, that's the first time a lot of guys were around boys. Then our boy tendencies started to pop up and manifest themselves, you know. So especially if you were like me, an only child, it was just me and my mom and around her sisters. Oh my God, it's a wonder I didn't turn out to be gay. And so I've heard a lot of people say that, but I don't, you know, that's a subject for a whole nother time. And you know, look, I'm conservative on some things, I'm liberal on some things, but I really, really do believe in men should be able to be men. And when we're out, when you're in high school, you have your friends. When you go to college, that's the first time a lot of guys get a chance to really be themselves. You join fraternities, you go party, no parents around, nobody to supervise. Guess when a lot of people had their most success in relationships with women? Why? Because you're around other guys. You're out in a group. When men are broke, we pile around. We have clubs and stuff. But look what happens after college. We all get domesticated. We leave college. We go to work in a company. Automatically, you're not around groups of men anymore. Even your fraternity brothers, even your boys. You move to a city. You go work in a company that has a culture that is very much like our society. Then you get involved in a relationship. All of a sudden, you got a bunch of men walking around like neutered zombies. We remember, it's like caged lions. That's a better thing. If you look back and see, look in the zoo. There's nothing worse than to see a lion that's in a cage and they feed it. If that lion was born in captivity, that's one thing. But a lion that roamed on the prairie, on the Serengeti, that's a whole nother thing. Guys, we all have that lion in us. But we have all been programmed and taught that being a nice guy is the way to be. That's why we end up simping. Simping is a symptom of programming. So when I was telling the stories yesterday about how I would go from, you know, doing what a guy should do to being this nice guy and end up getting abused and mistreated by women, that was an internal conflict going on in me, of me trying to basically fight against my programming. Another thing, though, is even after a guy knows better, we go back to simping because it's safe. We know how to simp. That's it. We just know how. It's no different than why don't people go work out at the gym? Why don't people eat better? Why don't people, you know, dress better? It's not a matter of knowledge. Arguably, we're the most knowledgeable society that's ever existed. We have access to information like no time before in human history. It's not a matter of information. It's a matter of, if I change, I'll have to do something that I'm not familiar with. And I'm familiar with being a simp. I'm familiar with being a nice guy. I'm familiar with doing the things that people want me to do to be acceptable. And I know what I get. Now, here's the twist. We get comfortable with it. It's kind of like, think about all those sayings we have in our world. You know, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Be content. Keep the car you have, and the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. All of these things are little subliminal cues to keep us stuck and content. So as a man, when you hear another man telling you, look, women like sex, women like men, women like confident, intelligent, assertive men, and they want men to act in a certain way that's counter to what we've been told, it goes against everything we know, and it goes against us being safe. That's why you get guys saying, I'm not going to do that because I'm afraid a woman will slap me in the face. I'm afraid she'll throw a drink in my face. Look at YouTube. YouTube is a great example. I am a professional menswear stylist, but I have a tremendous amount of information to give to guys. I have to think about the content I put out there because I can put some stuff out there that YouTube doesn't deem appropriate or friendly. I don't cuss a lot. I don't use a bunch of negative words, but even the concepts I'm talking about, they don't want me talking about this right now. Guys that talk about this kind of stuff end up having their channels demonetized, their views skewed off, their channels just aren't as popular. Why is that? Now, women who talk about women's stuff and women's empowerment, those channels get millions of views and subscribers, but guys that have the nerve to talk about, guy, put yourself first, empower yourself, be a man, take charge of your own life, be confident, intelligent, assertive, be learning, all that stuff, you would think that would be a good thing. No. It's challenging to the system. The system we were raised. I was raised in that simp system. So I could go on and on and on and tell you story after story after story. But let me just say this. Because we are guys, let's just throw some numbers up here. Not to brag about anything, but by the time a guy reaches his mid-30s is when he really starts to understand what it means to be a man. By the time you reach 40, you really become a completely different person. You become a whole man. You know how to get stuff done. You know who you are. You're self-actualized. So in your teens and 20s, a lot of guys, we're about getting laid and making money. And it's easier to get laid to make money, so we keep score by stuff. I went through that phase to where, we had competitions to see who could score the most with women. And, when you start when you start having numbers in the triple digits, on one side, I was taught to be proud of that, but on another side, I felt kind of ashamed. I was like, that's disgusting. But then I thought about it, I'm like, well, wait a minute. That's nothing to be ashamed of. I just lived life. No one told me to be ashamed of it. It was the way I was raised and programmed by the world. You got to be a nice guy. You got to do the right thing. You got to put everybody's needs ahead of your own. Every single relationship I've had, and I haven't had a lot. I've had a lot of women. Trust me, I've had a lot of women. I got some stories that I simply will not tell on YouTube. I've lived a broad life. I've done some, I don't have a bucket list. Let's just put it that way. I'm doing that homo stuff though. If that's what you do, that's what you do, but I don't do that. But the thing is, as you start to realize, when you hear, the first time you hear a woman say, I normally don't do this kind of thing, but, the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. But after I heard the 10th woman say, I normally don't do this, I'm like, man, what's the only common denominator? Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, other, old, young, rich, poor, American, European, Asian, African, it doesn't matter. The only common denominator was all these women were lying. I normally don't do stuff like that. That is just a conscious clearing, a saying so she can go ahead and get it in. The women that actually are the best, in my opinion, are the ones that are straight up and know what they want. But they're frowned upon. Guys, the world doesn't want us to be straight up because it is not. The world frowns upon masculinity. The point of it is ultimately simping, putting women ahead of your needs, putting anybody ahead of your needs is a bad way for any person to live. Every relationship I had where I actually suspended good, simple thought, and I decided to go ahead and put a woman on a pedestal, treat her like a princess, all these other things, you know what ended up happening? I was happy for about a month. because she told me all the things I wanted to hear. You're like no other guy I've ever had before. You're so different. You're so this. You're so that. Then after that, after the new car smell wore off, that woman began to resent me. She had contempt for me, no respect for me, because when a woman knows that you will take whatever she does and let her get away with it, she had no respect for you. Simple as that. You out there being a sucker. So, and we're told, be upfront, open, honest with women. Tell her your feelings. No, I'm telling you, hold stuff back from women. Don't tell them everything. Do not tell a woman that, you know what, whatever you do, I love your dirty drawers. And you could do whatever, and I'll take you back. No. First-hand experience. That doesn't work. When you check a woman, when you let them know that you are the catch, not them, you put them on your schedule. You make them jump through hoops to get to you.
Right. I want to give my opinion on simping versus being a gentleman. So for all the young men out there who get very confused on what simping is, let me give you the definition, right? Simping is an unfair exchange of value. Simping is an unfair exchange of value. For example, if a girl don't know you exist and then you do stuff for her like sending her flowers just to make her happy, man, that is simping. If you go above and beyond for a woman that is not interested in you, I am sorry, my G, you are a simp. However, there's a thin line between being a simp and being a gentleman. If the value you get at the end is a relationship or a wife, such and so forth, and there's a few things that you can do that can be considered simping. Buying her flowers, opening a door, things like that is not simping at that point. As I said, simping is an unfair exchange of value. Like if you get something out of it, or if she's interested in you, then you are simply being a gentleman, and she's probably going to take you seriously. It depends on what kind of woman you're dealing with, though, but yeah.